Hello and welcome to another video. I'm really excited about this video because I'm going to demonstrate the power of the Cloudflare tunnel. We're gonna deploy our own server, then we're gonna protect it with the Cloudflare service on our server, and then we're gonna deploy our WordPress application. First, let me introduce you to the Cloudflare tunnel. Cloudflare tunnel is a reverse proxy service that will protect your internal applications on your server and makes them available on the internet. All traffic is gonna be served via Cloudflare enterprise level CDN, where you can get DDoS protection, you get the firewall rules, and it will block all sorts of direct attacks and threats on your web application. So let's get started deploying our server. For this demonstration, I'm gonna be deploying server on Hetzner, and I'm gonna choose data center in Germany. And for the OS, I'm choosing Debian 11 because we're gonna be installing our Docker service. So for this, we're gonna keep it simple and we're gonna choose the cheapest one. We're gonna disable public IPv6 because we don't really need it. I'm gonna add my SSH key. I'm gonna name it Cloudflared, which is the service for Cloudflare Tunnel. And we're gonna create our server. Usually this takes up to 10 seconds and the server is almost instant. Alright, we have our server and now we're gonna configure our firewall. What's really great with the Cloudflare service that you don't need any ports open to the public. You won't have open port 80 for HTTP or port 443 for HTTPS. Every internet request on your server will go through the Cloudflare network, and I will show you later in this video. So for port 22 we can keep IPv4, or if you have your dedicated IP address you can add it here. And we're gonna name our firewall Cloudflared as well, and we're gonna create our rule. And now we can also assign our server. I'm gonna go to resources, apply to server, and we're gonna select our server that we just created for this demonstration, and it's already applied. When we go back to the servers, we copy the IP, and I'm going to continue this demonstration in the Termius. As you saw in the previous video, I'm using Termius to manage all of my servers, all of my SSH connections, and also the great feature is that you will have access to the snippets. Snippets are basically system commands that you can save, and it's gonna be in the cloud, so you can get access to your snippets anywhere in the world. You can also have access to the snippets in the iOS or Android app. So let's continue adding our server. We're gonna add a new host. We're gonna label it Cloudflared. Username by default is root, and we're gonna select my SSH key. And we double click server and connect. And we wanna replace our fingerprint, and that's it. For this we're gonna clear our screen, and for this demonstration I'm not gonna be adding a new user because I'm gonna delete the server after this video. So yeah, for now I will show you the snippet section in the Termius. Here, as you can see, are all of my snippets that I'm using on a day-to-day basis, and I really don't need to type them. I just click the button and it's gonna perform the command I entered in snippets. So for example, here you can add new snippet, and you, for example, add your new script like apt update ampersand and apt upgrade yes that you want to confirm. You're gonna put the label auto update and upgrade, and I'm gonna click save. As we can see, the command is here, and we just click this button and run. And it is already upgrading and updating our server. Alright, our server is updated and we can continue installing our Docker service. And for Docker service, I have also my snippets here. As you can see, first we're gonna set up the repository, then we're gonna create the keyrings folder, we're gonna assign the keyrings, and the last step is to install it. So let's get started with repository setup. As you can see, with the click of a button, all the commands here, and it's really nice and easy. Second, we're gonna add the PGP keys. We're gonna assign the PGP keys in the third step. And now we can proceed to installing our Cloudflare Docker packages. Alright, our Docker is installed. We can verify it by running command docker version, and it should be always on the latest, which is 20.10.18, and also we can check our Docker Compose, which we type with Docker Compose version, and it's also on the latest and greatest version of the Docker Compose. And now when we have this, we can move to the Cloudflare. Alright, to access the Zero Trust dashboard, you log into your main Cloudflare account, and here on the left side you see the Zero Trust button. You just click it and it will redirect it to the Cloudflare Access dashboard. Also, in my video that I made how to protect WordPress with 2FA with Cloudflare, you can check the video for how you can create your Zero Trust account in Cloudflare. Let us load this. We can close the news. And now when we go to the Access tab, here you can see tunnels. We go into the tunnels. And we're gonna create our new tunnel, which we named Cloudflared, and save the tunnel. On this screen, it will ask you which environment or system you are running. As you can see, you can install it on the Windows, Mac, Red Hat, or even as a Docker container. For this, I'm choosing the Debian and the 64-bit architecture. Here you are presented with the command how you can install it, but I find the issue when you want to update the Cloudflare tunnel to the latest version. Sometimes you have to update it manually, so I search and Google the Cloudflare repository for the latest and greatest version. So now we're gonna move back to our terminal. We're gonna clear the screen again. And here I have my snippets for Cloudflare Debian. So first command will be creating the folder in user share keyrings. We're gonna add the Cloudflare repository. We're gonna assign the repository, and the last step is just to install Cloudflare service. Alright, we have our Cloudflare service active, and we can go back to our Cloudflare dashboard, and we can copy this key, which will link our server to the Cloudflare. And we just paste it, and we should be up and running. So service is installed successfully, and we should have our connection in the Cloudflare. As we can see, we have our connector ID and our origin IP, which is the IP of the server, and we can continue. And we go next, and here we're gonna add our application that we going to install. So Let me move back to the terminal. Clear the screen again, and we're gonna install the Portainer, which I have snippet also. First, we're gonna create volume for the Portainer, and we're gonna install the Portainer. And it is now pulling the data, and we're gonna install it. Depending on your network speed, sometimes it can take up to a minute, but usually it is within a couple of seconds. So Portainer is installed. We can verify it by running docker ps command, and it is running. And now we go back to our Cloudflare tunnel, and we're gonna set up the Portainer. So for subdomain, I'm gonna be using a Portainer domain webnestify.uk, which is my training domain. For service, we're gonna select HTTP, and the URL is gonna be localhost and port 9000, which is the default Portainer port. And we're gonna save our tunnel. And our tunnel is active, and now we want to protect access to the Portainer. In order to protect it, first we need to set up our access groups, which will contain our predefined rules that you want to apply. So we go to access groups. We're gonna add a new group. We're gonna name our group, which is gonna be Cloudflared. You can set it up as a default group, which means when you add the application, this group will be already pre-selected. And what are we going to do? We're gonna select our emails. Also, we can add the email of domain. You can add your IP ranges. You can add the countries and any other things you see here, like login methods, service token, or just to access for everyone. For this sake, I'm going to use my email. Then will be webnestify.cloud. And we're gonna click save. That means only this email address can receive 2FA code in order to log into our application that we created. Now we go to the application menu. We're gonna add an application. You want to select the self-hosted. Application name is gonna be actually Portainer. Session duration, you can select 1 month. That means you will be forced to authorize your email address every month. For the subdomain, it's gonna be a Portainer, webnestify.uk, and that's it. We can go next. We're gonna name our policy, which is email, action allow, and the session duration is gonna be same like the application session. And here you can assign the group that we just created. So we're gonna select the Cloudflare group. And we go next and add an application. And now when we go to the Portainer.webnestify UK, we should be presented with the 2FA screen from Cloudflare Access. We're gonna type our email. And we should receive the code on the email you provided. I'm going to check it really fast. Yes, I have the code. Just copying the and paste the code. Okay. And here we are presented with the Portainer of default installation, where you can specify your username and your password. So we're gonna add our strong and complicated password. We don't wanna anonymous statistics, and we're gonna create our user. We're gonna add our local environment. Where are we? Oh yeah, it's already added our local environment, so we can proceed to install our WordPress application. And then later in the channel, I'm going to show you how you can use a Portainer and what it does really. So for the WordPress, we can check the templates in the Portainer. It's gonna be one-click install. So here we have WordPress with MySQL database. We're gonna name it Cloudflared. We're gonna add our database use password. Really strong and complicated. And we just deploy the WordPress. Alright, our WordPress stack is installed. It took around 2 minutes, and when we go to our dashboard, we can see we have 3 running containers. One is for a Portainer, one is for a WordPress, and one is for the database. And what we want to see is this port. Let me zoom in a little bit. And we're gonna set up the Cloudflare tunnel on this port 49153, which is our WordPress URL port. Let me go back to the tunnels. We're gonna configure our tunnel, and we're gonna add another subdomain for our WordPress. WordPress.webnestify.uk. We're gonna select HTTP, and also we're gonna specify the localhost, which is our server. And what was the port? 49153. 49153. And we're gonna save our host name. And now we can proceed to the URL and we can install our WordPress. We go English, site title, we're gonna be Cloudflared, username Cloudflared as well, passwords, and email gonna be. We can discourage and install our WordPress. Never save, login. And we are in our WordPress container running on a Cloudflare tunnel and also in a Docker environment on Debian 11. As we can go check the site health, there should not be any issues. Yeah, some plugins and APR errors, but yeah, it's pretty good. Everything is ready. And when we check our database, is using MySQL, this version, and yeah, usually I set up a WordPress in Docker when I want to manage other WordPress websites. I installed a main WP extension, and from that I just manage all the websites, and it's pretty easy and straightforward. Okay, so let me recap a little bit. So we installed our Debian 11 server. We run the network on the Cloudflare Enterprise via Cloudflare Tunnel. We install the Portainer, which is a Docker management system. And we install our WordPress stack, which is also running on the Cloudflare Enterprise network, while we don't have any public access to our server. So I really hope that you like this video, and also I will link all the necessary stuff that you can read and learn more yourself, and in the future I'm gonna go more deeply into the Cloudflare rules, protection rules, and the basic management. So feel free to leave comments down below. I will be happy to answer you, and see you next time in another video.